Hello BookTube, hello Tudorverse. Last week, Book Chat with Pat did a wonderful tag, the childhood book tag, and I decided I wanted to do it. And she basically said, consider yourself tagged if you want to do the tag. So boom, I've been tagged. So first question, were you a big reader as a child? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I grew up in a time before computers, before smartphones, before television, really. No, we had television. We only had 7 channels, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Channel 14 every once in a while, but those public access channels back then really weren't the place a young child should be going. So 7 channels. So yes, I read a lot. 2, did your parents read to you? If so, what? My parents were really good about reading to me up until I could read for myself. Then we would all kind of sit around the table and read together. Never at dinner. You were never allowed to read at dinner. Breakfast and lunch, absolutely fine. You could just sit there with your nose in your book and it wouldn't be a problem, but never at dinner. At dinner, you had a conversation. The what was, I think the crossover point was like the classics, the things like Blueberries for Sal and Ferdinand the Bull, and it's like the Newbery Award winners. I had the full collection. My mother was a school teacher, so we always had a lot of books in the house. First bookish memory, one that I really shouldn't have because I was only 2 years old, and you're not supposed to have memories from times like this, from that early stuff, but I do. There was a big blackout in New York in 1964, and I absolutely remember following after my mother, who was holding a camera, and going to my bookshelf in their room and picking out the books that we were bringing back to the kitchen table and that they were going to read me there. So I believe that we'll get to that one a little bit later. Be honest. Question 3, did you read the books assigned to you in school? Yes and no. The ones that grabbed me, I read, and I read them more than once. The ones that didn't, I faked it, as many of us did. 5, where did you get your books as a child? Okay, so my grandfather was a book dealer, and he died when I was 7. And my mother took over his business. He had been the 7 book hunters, and she became the 7th book hunter, which both of those were lie. There were not 7 book hunters, but it was absolutely adorable. But so to find the books that she would then sell, she would scour. There was a paper called the Almanac that listed every block party, church fair, sale, you name it, that was going on in the city at the time. And my father would drive us to all of them, starting at like 8 o'clock in the morning. He was okay with that because in the long-standing tradition of Italian men, he would go out to meet his buddies and at the club and drink for for the night, then come home without having to worry about alternate side of the street parking, since we'd be gone before he had to leave. So it really was a win-win. So anyway, we would go to the block parties, and my job was to stand there originally, and my mother would just kind of toss books at me that I would have to guard against all of the other book dealers who were essentially doing the same thing. And if you've ever tried to hold on to an entire row of movie seats at a premiere, you will understand how difficult that was. But my reward for that work was that while she was looking through the books to decide which ones she really wanted, I would get to go around and basically pick anything I wanted. So I would pick up the 2 or 3 or however many books I wanted to read and just take them home for that week. So I never knew what I was going to find. It really could be anything, so I read pretty widely as a result. One exception, I was in the car as we were driving in between block parties, and I was like 3 pages into Fear of Flying. I was about 12 or 13, and all of a sudden my mother turned around and was like, oh, is that book about airplanes? Grabbed it out of my hands, and so I did not get to read that one. However, just yesterday I came across Erica Jong's latest follow-up to that called Fear of Dying, and it is now on my to-be-read pile. And it's going to be right after I finish Jane Austen's bookshelf for Jane Austen July. Question 6. Did you watch any television meant to inspire reading? Again, my generation didn't really have that. Sesame Street came out when I was babysitting, though I did start pretty young, so it was early. Kids were not really taken into account. We had Saturday morning cartoons and the Disney Hour on Sunday nights. But things like Masterpiece Theater and other things were, they were not intended to inspire reading, and yet they did. That's where I saw, when I was 8 years old, The Six Wives of Henry VIII and Elizabeth R. And that led me into a Jean Plaidy obsession, and that kind of is where we are today. Success. It was successful, even though that was not what it was intended to be. What sort of genres or storylines did you like? Because of the randomness of what I found, I did read pretty widely, but Tudor's, duh. The Secret Garden, A Little Princess, basically hero's journey with little girls. Also a bunch of tragedies. I do have a gloomy side. Favorite children's or picture book. The Giant Golden Book of the Three Bears. I was absolutely obsessed with that book. That might have been one of the books that I picked out from the bookshelf on the night of the blackout. I actually had it up until a few months ago. Also, Go Dog Go, which I have given to every child in my life. If you are looking to teach a child how to read, there is no better book for anybody to make that transition into a reader. So, favorite children's series: Nancy Drew, Encyclopedia Brown, Little House on the Prairie for the early chapter books. I didn't love the Bobbsey twins. I was not a Bobbsey twins fan, though I did like the Peppers and the Borrowers. So that was there. Favorite chapter or Big Kids book: From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. Oh my God, to this day, give me a chance to hide out in the bathroom and sleep over at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, unnoticed. I will take it in a heartbeat. That is a life goal. I'm not sure how. That's a bucket list item. I'm not sure how I'm ever going to accomplish that, but that's up there. The Witch of Blackbird Pond, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and of course the usual suspects for girls, Little Women, and even Little Men and Joe's Boys, but nowhere near as much. Lord of the Rings. Like Pat, I read it when I was around 10 years old. I read that one first, and then The Hobbit. Read them all a bunch of times. I really like the poems, and I can still recite them. I'm not going to do it here, but I have done it a bunch of times. That was it. Tag others. I am going to do exactly what Pat did. I am relatively new, don't know a bunch of people, and so if you like the tag, consider yourself tagged. So see you next time. Thanks a lot.